Hello, my name is Olga Bazanova. With you, Olga Bazanova Painting Studio. And now I will show you 5 best techniques for working with a palette knife. We will paint with you with oil paints. And if you want to make a really amazing picture, these 5 tricks will definitely help you. First trick. You take a regular palette knife. It can be any palette knife that suits you. For example, you take one paint on a palette knife and the second. You get 2 shades, 2 colors. You can even create a flower this way. As you can see, I draw with a palette knife smoothly, softly and, as it were, a little ribbed. Pressing mainly on the base of the palette knife. And the color gradually comes out here. And it turns out the paint is squeezed out on the outer edge. Comes out very nice. Emphasize. Now we can even make such a beautiful poppy out of this with a palette knife. The next palette knife technique will be like this. We have to take a little diluent or solvent and pour a little canvas with them. Now we will take a little white paint, wet, a little blue color, and a little darker paint. And here is a technique: when you have a wet surface, it paints very cool. Smooth transitions can be done even with a palette knife. This is an awesome trick on how to create a gradient without using a brush. One more trick. Do the same dry. And now take a palette knife and, as it were, not with the entire surface, but slightly touching, and create a ripple like this. This is used for making ripples on the water. With an additional movement of the palette knife, you can create movements like this. Next trick with a palette knife. You can make some kind of sensation, for example, create the effect of a mountain. For this you will need an average amount of paint. Unlike a flower, a little less paint is taken on a palette knife. Now we take, and with roughness, we create the feeling of some kind of surface of a mountain or a pebble.
Какой-нибудь поверхности горы или камушка.
Rough and not completely filling. And now we take white, a little blue tint for example. We can create the feeling of snow on top. Here is such a soft, almost light paste. Pasty enough, that is, with a lot of paint, almost without touching gently. We fill. Another trick with a palette knife. When we take and do just such strokes, we create an overlap on each other, wiping a smear each time. After each smear with a rag or a damp cloth. Wiping a palette knife, you get really clean. And with this technique, you can even add such bright blue ones, and they won't mix. Even with yellow paint. See how you can work in layers. Such a technique also exists, and you can write to them in the technique of impressionism. Dear friends, wonderful work for you and see you again.